Millionaire CEO was allergic to women until a cleaning lady touched his life without knowing it. They said he was allergic to love, not metaphorically. Every time a woman touched him, his skin blistered, his breath caught, and his world shut down. So he built walls, empire-sized ones. Until the day a cleaning lady walked into his suite, tracked dust onto his perfection, and accidentally brushed his arm. Nothing happened. Not a rash, not a wheeze, not a mark. And that was the beginning of everything falling apart. And maybe, just maybe, everything falling into place. The room that changed everything. Logan Fischer walked into the presidential suite like it was a battlefield. Not a wrinkle on the bed sheets, not a smudge on the mirror, not a hair out of place. Except, there it was, a faint trail of dust on the edge of the sideboard. He stopped breathing, his jaw locked. The room, for all its gold accents and triple-inspected luxury, had failed him. "This is an outrage," he muttered to no one. He reached for the phone like it was a weapon. "Get the manager, now!" Downstairs, the front desk scattered like mice, and 10 minutes later, a cleaning lady was shoved into the elevator like a soldier into enemy fire. Her name was Isabella Monroe, and she didn't care if he was a billionaire, a prince, or God himself. She had just worked a double shift and was one warning away from losing her job. "Excuse me, sir," Isabella said, wheeling in her cart. "I'm here to clean." And she froze halfway through the sentence. 'Cause there he was, Logan Fischer. Famous, unreachable, and frankly too good-looking for someone this rude. He looked at her like she was a virus in his immune system. "You have 5 minutes." "5?" She almost laughed. "You want me to deep clean this suite in 5 minutes? You're already wasting one." She inhaled through her nose and grabbed the mop. Fine, if he wanted military-grade cleaning, he was going to get it. Isabella moved with quiet grace, under beds, around furniture, every swipe calculated. Everything was going fine. Until it wasn't. She was reaching for a corner of the desk when her elbow brushed his. It was nothing, a simple touch. But Logan Fischer went rigid. He looked at his arm like it had been struck by lightning. "You touched me," he said. "Why, sorry accident," Isabella replied, already moving on. But he didn't. "No, you touched me." His voice was shaking now. "Do you know what that means? Boundaries?" "I'm allergic," he hissed, "to women." Isabella blinked. "I'm sorry, you're what?" "Every time a woman touches me, my skin reacts, my throat closes, my body shuts down." She stared at him. "Wow, do you carry an EpiPen or a priest?" Logan stepped back, checked his arm, waited for the symptoms. Nothing. No redness, no swelling. It didn't make sense. He stared at her, eyes wide like he'd seen a ghost, or worse, a miracle. "You touched me, and nothing happened." When she shrugged, "I've been told I'm emotionally unavailable. Maybe that helps." "This defies everything," Logan murmured. "Science, biology, logic." He looked at her like she was some unclassified organism. Then, without blinking, he said, "You're hired." Isabella's mouth fell open. "I'm sorry, what?" "You're going to work for me, exclusively. I need to study this." She nearly choked on her own breath. "I'm not a guinea pig." "I'll double your pay." "Now." "Triple. Lifetime healthcare, 6-figure bonus." She paused. "With dental? White?" She exhaled hard. "Fine, but I'm not your servant." "Nope, honey," he said, eyeing her with that icy gaze. "Because puppies obey." She nearly threw the mop at him. But something about him, his strangeness, his control, his desperation, made her pause. She didn't want this job. She didn't want to see him again. But in that moment, standing in the most expensive room in Manhattan, Isabella Monroe realized something. Maybe the only thing more dangerous than a man who couldn't feel was becoming the woman who made him start. The woman he didn't react to. The woman he didn't react to? The rain came down like it meant something. Not gentle, not symbolic, just cold and unapologetic as it streaked down the tall windows of Fisher Enterprises, one of Manhattan's most untouchable fortresses. Inside the 70th floor, Logan Fischer sat behind a desk made of Italian marble and silence. He didn't like noise. He didn't like perfume. And he especially didn't like surprise. So when his assistant walked in holding a personnel folder and said, "She's here," Logan didn't even look up. Put her in the conference room. "Sir, she's not an applicant." And now he looked. "Excuse me?" The assistant blinked nervously. "She's the cleaning lady from the hotel, the one you hired on the spot yesterday." He frowned. "Oh, her." The assistant hesitated. "She's waiting." Logan stood, adjusted his cufflinks. "Let's get this over with." Isabella Monroe sat in a glass-walled room that smelled like toner and tension. She was wearing jeans with a tear at the knee and a borrowed coat 2 sizes too big. Her hair was tied up in a messy knot. She'd expected to be fired, or sued, or possibly banned from luxury hotels forever, and she hadn't expected this. The door opened. He walked in like cold air. Logan Fischer, wearing a 3-piece suit that probably cost more than her last semester of college. Not a smile on his face, not even a trace of human warmth. "You're late," he said, though she wasn't. "You're welcome," she replied, though he hadn't thanked her. His jaw twitched. "You touched me." She crossed her arms. "And yet you lived." "I have a rare condition. A tragic." Logan ignored the sarcasm. "It's not funny. Every time a woman touches me, I break out. Collapse. Go into anaphylactic shock." "I broke that pattern," Isabella said. "Lucky me." He studied her like she was a puzzle with missing pieces. "I've had every specialist, every lab test, every procedure. And then you," he paused, eyes narrowing. "You brushed my arm, and nothing happened." "Maybe I'm the cure," she joked, half smiling. "Exactly." Her smile disappeared. "Wait, what?" "You're hired, full-time, effective immediately." She blinked. "I'm not your science experiment. I'm offering you a job." "I already have one." "No," he said. "You had one. You were fired yesterday." She flushed. He wasn't wrong. "Benefits," he added. "Healthcare, a driver, a penthouse suite if you want it." "Why would I want a penthouse when I can live with 5 strangers and a broken shower?" He stared at her. She sighed. "Fine, say I agree. What would I even do?" "Stay close to me, monitor symptoms, record reactions, and bring me coffee." She laughed once. "You want me to touch you and bring you coffee?" "It's medical." "It's insane." "I'm willing to pay." "How much?" He named a number. Her mouth opened. He doubled it. "And if I say no?" "I'll triple it." She squinted. "And if I say yes, but I'm very annoying?" "I've survived worse." The next hour was a blur of forms, digital contracts, and a tour she barely remembered. By the time they reached his office, a sleek, spotless space with sharp lines and no comfort. "This is where you'll work," Logan said. She looked around. "Doing what exactly?" "Whatever I need." "Like, don't spill anything, don't spill my things, don't make noise, don't use perfume, and don't, under any circumstances, bring me cold coffee." She stared at him. "You do know you're describing 90% of the human experience, right?" He didn't smile. So she did. "Well, boss," she said, settling into the chair across from him without asking, "I guess you better pray I don't sneeze on you." He didn't answer. But something about the way he looked at her, curious, unsettled, almost hopeful, made her wonder. Maybe he wasn't afraid of women. Maybe he was just afraid of being known. Chapter 2. Cold coffee, hot tempers. The first rule of surviving Logan Fischer? Don't breathe too loud. The second? Never, under any circumstance, serve him coffee that isn't hot enough to scald. Isabella Monroe had already broken both. It was her third day as his personal assistant, a title that sounded impressive until you realized it mostly involved saying yes to ridiculous orders and pretending not to notice the temperature-controlled madness of the man she now worked for. The office was quiet that morning. Too quiet. Logan sat behind his desk, signing papers like he was performing surgery. Not a hair out of place, not a crease in his suit. Isabella entered with a coffee cup she'd retrieved from the break room. She didn't use almond milk, or oat foam, or imported beans blessed by monks in Tibet. Just coffee, black. He looked up the moment she placed it on his desk. "Why is this?" "Your morning miracle," she said. "Enjoy." He took a sip, and immediately spit it back into the cup. "What is this?" "A coffee," she replied. "This is cold." "Lukewarm," she corrected. "Technically?" He stood. "Lukewarm is an insult. It's not poison. It's a betrayal." She stared. "It's a beverage." He placed the cup down like it had insulted his ancestors. "Do you know what I expect in the morning?" "Soul," she offered. He leaned forward. "I expect precision." She crossed her arms. "And I expect not to be yelled at before 9 a.m. Look at us, both disappointed. Do you work for me? You offered me a salary, not your soul." His jaw flexed. "Make another." "What?" Nathaniel said, and calmly picked up the coffee and poured it into the trash. "What are you doing?" "Making it worth earning." He blinked. "You just..." "Yep, gone. Down the drain. Want to try again?" "You're infuriating." "You're dramatic." They stared at each other across the battlefield of his office. Silence buzzed like static. And then, Logan Fischer did something no one in the building had ever seen. He laughed. Not a fake, forced chuckle. A real, startled, shoulder-shaking laugh. Isabella tilted her head. Was that spontaneous human joy? He ignored her, sat back down, picked up a pen. "Bring me another, this time hot." She turned to leave. "Any other special requests? Magical beans? Unicorn milk?" "Coffee," he said, not looking up. "And maybe less talking." She grinned as she walked away. But what she didn't see, what no one did, was the way he watched her go. As if trying to solve a mystery that, for once, didn't come with a manual. She returned 5 minutes later with a new cup, this time steaming. "Dear, the elixir of life." He took a sip, closed his eyes. He nodded once. "You learn fast." "I survive fast," she said. For a moment, the office was quiet again. Then Isabella did something dangerous. She sat down in the chair across from him, uninvited, and crossed her legs. "Question," she said. "God help me. Why are you like this?" He looked up. "Excuse me?" "Controlling, cold, bossy. I get the allergy part, but what's your excuse for the rest of it?" His face didn't move, but something behind his eyes flickered. "I built an empire by eliminating variables," he said. "Feelings are variable." She blinked. "That's sad." "It's efficient." "It's lonely?" He didn't answer. So she leaned back and smiled. "Don't worry, I'm not here to fix you." "Good. Why I reserve the right to annoy you." He sighed. "Of course you do." Later that afternoon, she passed a group of interns whispering near the elevator. "Is that her?" one whispered. "The one who touched him and lived?" Isabella smiled. Maybe she wasn't the cure, but she was definitely the chaos he didn't see coming. Chapter 3. Elevator therapy. Logan Fischer didn't believe in fate. He believed in systems, in timing, in precise floor counts and elevators that obeyed the buttons they were given. So when the steel doors closed and the lights flickered twice before the elevator stopped between floors, it wasn't fate. It was failure. "What just happened?" Isabella asked, her hand hovering over the button panel. Logan pressed the emergency button once, twice, nothing. "Power glitch," he muttered. "Systems are backed up, should restore soon." "You sound awfully calm for a man trapped in a box." "I've been in worse rooms, with worse people." She raised an eyebrow. "And I've been in cleaner ones with better views." He sighed. They stood in silence, boxed in by glass and steel, 30 floors above the street. The city glowed below, blurred by fog and height. Isabella leaned back against the rail. "So, what now?" "We wait." She crossed her arms. "Do you ever talk about anything real?" "Define real." "Something that doesn't involve stocks, temperature, or coffee." He didn't respond. And so she tried again. "Where are your parents?" "Dead." "Oh." He looked straight ahead. "Plane crash. I was 14. The words dropped like stones. "I'm sorry." "I'm not." Her head turned slowly. "You don't mean that." "I do," he said. "They were cold, distant. Wealth was everything. Perfection wasn't praised. It was expected." And she stayed quiet. Logan exhaled. "My mother used to spray perfume on the curtains to hide the smell of silence. That silenced even Isabella." "I developed hives when I was 8, he said. "Doctors couldn't explain it. It got worse with time, especially with women. Physical contact set it off. Every date, every hug, every attempt at closeness." He turned to her, his eyes sharp. "Touch equals danger. My body learned that before my heart ever could." Her voice softened. "But not with me." He stared at her. "Exactly." Another pause. Heavy, electric. Then she broke the moment with a crooked smile. "So what you're saying is, I'm a medical miracle." He almost smiled. "Or a glitch in the system." "Take your pick." "Glitches break things." And she stepped closer. "Or reveal what's broken." That one hit too close. The elevator jolted. Lights returned, doors reopened. But neither of them moved for a moment. Logan looked at her hand. "You touched me that first day." "Barely." "We again yesterday. By the desk." "Also an accident." He studied her. "What if it's not just your body? What if it's you?" She tilted her head. "You think I'm your antidote?" "I think you're different." She shrugged, walking out first. "Maybe you're just allergic to everyone else." He followed her down the hall, but something lingered in the air, something unsaid. Maybe the scariest part of falling in love was realizing your body knew it before you did. Later that night, Logan reviewed his security footage out of habit. Elevator timestamp, 12:08 p.m. He paused the screen. 2 people. One frozen man, one woman leaning against the rail, grinning like she knew exactly what she was doing. He stared at the image for a long time, then did something no one could have predicted. He hit delete. Chapter 4. Dinner with the Ex. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and polite lies. Silk gowns swept the marble floor, champagne flutes tilted with rehearsed laughter, and in the center of it all stood Logan Fischer, meticulously controlled and already counting the seconds until he could leave. Charity events were just business and a black tie. Publicity, networking, damage control disguised as generosity. And tonight he wasn't alone. "Try not to look like you're plotting world domination," Isabella murmured beside him, eyes scanning the crowd. Logan didn't turn. "I thought I told you to stay in the car." "I thought you meant it as a challenge." He sighed. "You were invited. Don't embarrass me." She smirked. "Too late, I'm wearing flats." The evening unfolded in quiet tension. Isabella clutched a champagne flute like it was armor. Her dress was borrowed, simple, elegant, entirely out of place. Logan, on the other hand, looked like he belonged to the room, until she walked in. And Leclerc. Blonde, composed, explicit in the way expensive perfume is, beautiful but suffocating. Isabella noticed the shift in Logan's posture before he even spoke. He went colder, straighter. "Amen," he said as she approached. "Logan," she purred, "still allergic to women or just the wrong ones?" Isabella blinked. "Excuse me," she said, too loud. His eyes slid to her, unimpressed. "And this must be the infamous assistant." "I go by Isabella," she said, smiling razor sharp. "Infamy optional." Samantha barely concealed her smirk. Adorable. Logan stepped between them. "Let's keep this civil." "Of course," Samantha said, her gaze lingering too long on his arm, where Isabella had touched him the day before. Dinner was served. Small talk filled the gaps. Isabella sat stiff beside Logan, surrounded by men in tuxedos who couldn't remember her name. Till the auction began. A velvet-voiced announcer stepped on stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, the next item up for bid, a private dinner with Mr. Logan Fischer." Logan's head snapped toward the stage. "I did not approve this." Isabella choked on her drink. "Oh, this should be good." Bidding started at $10,000, 0 cents. Then 20, 50. A pause. Then a voice rang clear across the ballroom. 200,000. Everyone turned. Samantha Leclerc lowered her paddle with a smile carved out of ice. Gasps filled the room. The announcer looked like he'd just seen Santa Claus. Sold. The gavel rang out. To Miss Leclerc. Logan's hand clenched on the table. Isabella leaned in. "You going to dinner with your past boss?" His jaw twitched. "Apparently." "Well," she said, lifting her glass, "I hope you're not allergic to drama." They left early. Logan walked fast, like he was trying to outrun what had just happened. "She did that on purpose," he muttered. "Public leverage, emotional sabotage, classic Samantha." "Still think I shouldn't have come?" Isabella said, trying to keep pace. He stopped at the car door, staring at her. "Think this is funny?" "I think you're shaking." "I'm not." He looked at his hands. "Quiet, she's trying to win, and I don't even know what the game is." Isabella's voice softened. "You're not a prize, Logan." He looked up at her. "Then why does it feel like everyone's bidding on me?" She didn't have an answer. So she opened the car door and slid in beside him. And for the first time that night, he didn't feel like walking away. Chapter 5. The sauce disaster. The restaurant was the kind of place where no one ordered. Things simply arrived. Waiters moved like shadows, walls dripped with soft gold and the weight of expensive secrets. At the center table sat Logan Fischer, too composed. Beside him, Isabella Monroe, too tense. Across from them sat Samantha Leclerc in full predatory grace. "Slow," Samantha said, swirling her wine. "Still letting assistants accompany you to formal dinners?" Isabella smiled. "Still spending 6 figures to win men you couldn't keep?" Logan nearly choked on his water. Samantha's smile didn't falter. "You've grown bold." Isabella shrugged. "Comes with cleaning toilets and surviving billionaires." And Samantha turned to Logan. "She's quite the entertainer." "She's not here to entertain you," he said, colder than steel. Samantha's eyebrow lifted. "Oh? So she's here for what? Scientific experimentation?" Isabella stiffened. Logan leaned back in his chair. "She's here because I invited her." That silenced the table. Until the first course arrived. An artful, useless smear of sauce, with a name no one could pronounce. Isabella, in a heroic attempt to look composed, reached for her napkin and elbowed the sauce dish clean off the table. It landed on Samantha's lap in a spectacular splash of red. Time paused. The waiter froze. Samantha gasped. Logan blinked once. Isabella stared in horror. "Oh my God!" Samantha stood slowly, eyes burning. "You did this on purpose?" "I swear I didn't." "You're jealous," Samantha hissed. "It's obvious." "I didn't even want to come." Logan stood now too. "Enough." Samantha turned to him, voice sharp. "You're defending her?" It shut her up. "I'm defending her," he repeated, "because it was an accident, because I've seen you play this game before, and because this," he gestured to Isabella, covered in panic and regret, "is the only honest thing in this room." And Samantha's lips parted. But she didn't speak. Just stormed off, red-stained and rattled. Back in the car, silence stretched like wire. Isabella stared out the window. "You didn't have to." "I did. It embarrassed you." "You didn't." She looked at him. "Then why does it feel like I just ruined your entire reputation?" He turned to her, expression unreadable. "Because you're not used to someone standing beside you when things go wrong." And that stopped her. "I'm still not fired?" she asked, quieter now. He shook his head. "You're promoted." "To what?" "The only person in my life who's ever made a mistake worth forgiving." Later that night, she found a new coffee mug on her desk. No note, just a small engraving. "The woman who stains, survives, and stays." She didn't cry. "Hold on. Hold on." But she held it for a long time. Chapter 6. The Gala Trap. The Whitmore Foundation Gala was the kind of event where secrets were. Hundreds of the city's elite filled the grand hall beneath a ceiling of twinkling crystal. Journalists lingered like perfume in the corners, waiting for scandal to dance. A Logan Fischer arrived alone. And 5 minutes later, Isabella Monroe swept in behind him, late, breathless, and utterly out of place in a gown she hadn't chosen. "Let me guess," she muttered as she caught up. "You bought this dress too?" Logan didn't look at her. "You wouldn't have come if I asked." "Correct, and yet, here I am." "You're late." "You're welcome." He finally glanced at her. The dress was black satin, simple, stunning. Dangerous on someone who didn't even try. He cleared his throat. "Don't cause a scene." "I promise." The night hummed with curated laughter and passive-aggressive compliments. Logan moved through the crowd like a chess piece, precise, unreadable. Isabella trailed behind, sipping champagne like it was courage. Samantha appeared near the orchestra. As always, she didn't walk, she arrived. "Logan," she said smoothly, "you brought your assistant." Isabella didn't flinch. "Only because I lost a bet with fate." Samantha smiled. "How interesting, seeing you two together, especially given your condition?" Logan stiffened. "Samantha—" "Olivia, don't be shy," she cooed. "It's fascinating, isn't it? A man allergic to women, except one." The room fell quiet, eyes turned. Isabella's grip on her glass tightened. Samantha stepped closer. "Shall we prove it?" She reached toward Logan, fingers extended like a dare. But before she could touch him, Isabella stepped forward and touched his hand. A deliberate move. The room held its breath. Nothing happened. No rash, no wheezing, no panic. Just skin against skin. Logan didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't pull away. Samantha's eyes narrowed. He met her gaze. "Yes." Why her? Her. He turned to Isabella. "She's the only one who never tried to control me." Isabella blinked, stunned. Samantha faltered for the first time that evening. "Well, fascinating," she said, voice brittle. "Do let me know when the antidote wears off." She disappeared into the crowd, her heels echoing with fury. Outside on the terrace, Isabella leaned on the marble railing, breath shallow. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "I know." She was trying to humiliate you. She failed. You let me touch you, in front of everyone." Logan was silent for a beat. And softly, "You're the only one I don't react to." She looked up at him. Physically, maybe. He met her eyes. Not just physically. A pause. The kind that shifts everything. Back inside, the orchestra played on. People whispered, but for the first time, Logan didn't care. And neither did Isabella. They weren't playing a part anymore. They were stepping into something terrifyingly real. Chapter 7. The Man Without a Cure. Midnight hung over Manhattan like a silk curtain, quiet, endless, and full of things unsaid. Logan Fischer stood alone on the rooftop of his penthouse, the wind gently at his shirt sleeves. The city buzzed below him, but up here it was silent. Breathless. Behind him, the elevator dinged. "Should have known you'd be up here," Isabella said, stepping onto the gravel path. She didn't ask to join him. She never did. Logan didn't look back. "You always find me when I'm trying not to be found." "It's a gift." He smiled faintly, just for a second. She stepped beside him, their shoulders nearly touching. Neither moved. "People are still talking about the gala," she said. "You know that, right?" "At them." "We saw you let me touch you." "Saw the truth." She swallowed. "Why does that feel heavier than it should?" He didn't answer. So she pressed, gently. "You've never let anyone in." "Not really. So why me?" He stared ahead. The wind shifted. "And then?" "Because when you touched me," he said slowly, "I didn't just stop reacting. I started breathing." She blinked. Logan turned toward her, the skyline blazing behind him. "I've spent my whole life building walls. I called them boundaries. I called it safety. But it was fear. It's always been fear." His voice cracked, barely, but she heard it. "I thought I was allergic to women, to closeness. But now I think maybe I was just allergic to being known." He looked at her fully now, eyes raw. "And then you walked in, with dust on your shoes and attitude in your voice. You didn't treat me like a title. You treated me like a man who needed saving and dared me to admit it." Isabella's heart was thudding. "I tried to fight it," Logan whispered, "but I can't. I'm in love with you." The words dropped like rain on glass, gentle, inevitable, shattering. Isabella didn't move, and he couldn't. Logan took a breath. "You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." Silence stretched between them, heavy, electric. Finally she spoke. "Logan," she said softly, "I feel the same." His eyes searched hers. She added, voice trembling, "I'm terrified." "Of what?" "Of how much I want to believe you." She looked away. "I've spent my whole life cleaning up other people's messes, fixing what no one else wants. I don't know how to be someone who gets chosen. Not really." He reached out, slowly, and touched her hand. No reaction, no rash, no panic. Just warmth. "You are chosen," he said. "You always were." They didn't kiss that night, but something passed between them. Something stronger than a confession. Something like surrender. With jacket she replaced. The rain had stopped, but the city hadn't. Spring brushed Manhattan in soft gray light as Isabella climbed the stairs to Logan's office, holding a wrapped box so carefully it might have been glass. She wasn't sure why she was nervous. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't even necessary. It was just hers. The door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open. Logan sat behind his desk, sleeves rolled, tie loose. A rare sight. The man behind the title. "You're early," he said. "You're welcome," she replied. He raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" She placed the box on his desk and slid it across. "Open it." He hesitated, then untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside was a navy wool jacket, sharp-shouldered, tailored, elegant. But what made him pause was the corduroy collar. His brows lifted. Isabel leaned against the edge of the desk. It's a replacement. A white. You don't remember? To remind me. Day in the diner? You were wearing a suit I ruined. I ran 4 blocks and brought you your grandfather's old corduroy jacket. You laughed. You wore it. He stared at the collar. It smelled like pipe smoke and old wood. Exactly. She exhaled. You replaced everything in my life. Every fear, every rule I thought made me strong. This is me replacing something of yours. Even just one piece. He looked up at her. And paid for it, she added. No black card, no discounts, just tips. And time. Logan stood and touched the jacket. And looked at her like she was the most dangerous thing in the world, and the only thing that made sense. We didn't have to do this. I know. But you did. She nodded. Because you made me believe in things I didn't think I deserved. And because, for the first time, I wanted to give something back. He stepped closer, jacket still in his hands. You know what scares me? He asked. Witness. You. The fact that every time I look at you, I forget I ever hated being touched. Her breath hitched. I don't feel allergic anymore, he whispered. I feel awake. Later that night, the box sat empty on, and Logan wore the new jacket home. But he kept the old one in his closet, not as a memory, as proof that he'd been changed. Chapter 9. Touch. The lab was quiet, too quiet for someone whose entire life thrived on noise, contracts, meetings, emergencies. But Logan Fischer had cleared his schedule. He needed one answer. Isabella stood by the window, arms crossed, her reflection caught in the glass beside the skyline. You said this wasn't about science anymore, she said quietly. It's not, Logan replied, voice low. But I need to know for sure. She turned to face him. Know what? It's you. Not luck, not coincidence, not remission. He stepped toward her, stopping just a breath away. I want you to touch me, right now, in a room where no one's watching, where there's no pressure, nothing to prove. She hesitated. This isn't an experiment, he added. It's a choice. Yours. Isabella swallowed. Then slowly, gently, she raised her hand, touched his cheek. His eyes closed. A long breath in, a longer one out. No flinch, no fear, no hides, no collapse. Just skin and quiet and everything neither of them had dared to believe. When he opened his eyes, she was still there, still touching him. Still real? You didn't break, she whispered. Nothing happened, he said. I think I finally started healing. He kissed her then, not like a man avoiding death, but like a man who'd finally stopped avoiding life. Later, as they sat on the floor, her head on his shoulder, his hand in hers, Isabella murmured, Maybe it was never about your body. What do you mean? Maybe you weren't allergic to women, she said. Maybe you were allergic to being loved. He thought about that for a long time, and then didn't argue. Chapter 10. The proposal that didn't itch. There's no orchestra. No crowd, no flashbulbs. Just a quiet rooftop, a string of fairy lights, and the woman who made everything that used to scare him feel like home. Logan Fischer stood with a small velvet box in his palm, breathing slower than usual. Isabella Monroe was already watching him with narrowed eyes. Okay, she said, crossing her arms. You've been weird all day. That usually means a press disaster or a new therapy session. He stepped closer. Neither. Then why do you look like you're about to faint? I'm not fainting, he said. I'm resetting. She blinked. What? Look, he said. I've spent most of my life avoiding risk, avoiding people. I built an empire around not needing anyone. And then you walked in and ruined it. Completely. She raised an eyebrow. You're welcome? I mean it, he said. You wrecked my control, Isabella. You challenged every rule I made to keep my heart safe. Pause. Then he opened the box. Inside, a simple gold ring, no diamonds, no fanfare. Just a promise. I don't want a life that's neat, he said. I want one that's real, with someone who'll call me out, spill things, knock over wine, touch me without fear. He looked up. I want a life with you. She didn't breathe. I'm not asking because I'm supposed to, he said. I'm asking because, for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of what comes next. A beat of silence. Then she reached forward and shut the box. It froze. Is that a... She stepped closer and kissed him. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. That's a yes, she whispered. He blinked. You didn't even let me finish. You were rambling. I was proposing. I'm now up accepting. He laughed, pulled her in, and for the first time held her without flinching. 3 weeks later, they stood in a garden just outside the city. No paparazzi, no guest list with 500 names. Just Grandma Ellis from housekeeping, Logan's longtime driver, and Isabella's old boss from the hotel who cried when she said, I do. He didn't wear his usual suit. She didn't wear white. But when the officiant said, you may kiss the bride, Logan did, slowly, deliberately. And no one cared whether he broke out in hives. Because by then, they both knew. The only thing he'd ever been allergic to was hiding. The cure was never physical. Some love stories don't start with fireworks. They begin with dust, with silence. To the man too afraid to be touched, and a woman who didn't ask for permission. Logan Fischer used to think he was allergic to women. But what he was really allergic to was vulnerability. To being seen, to the terrifying risk of someone knowing the real him and staying anyway. Then came Isabella. Not flawless, not submissive, not quiet, but kind, unshakable. She didn't fix him. She didn't change him. But she just stood there, long enough for him to finally stop running. Months passed, and the headlines stopped caring. But in a quiet kitchen on a Sunday morning, Logan learned something deeper. He wasn't cured. He was chosen. Chosen by a woman who poured out his coffee when it wasn't hot enough. Who spilt sauce on his past and refused to apologize for it. Who touched his face like it wasn't dangerous. And showed him that love wasn't about safety. It was about truth, but kept things small. Their world. Their victories. Their promises. She kept her old coffee mug at his office. He kept her mop in the corner, not as a joke, but as a reminder that the girl who walked in with nothing gave him everything. And one night, as they stood on the same rooftop where he first said he loved her, Isabella turned to him and asked, do you ever miss the version of yourself before me? Logan didn't hesitate. For a second. Because the real miracle wasn't that she touched him and he survived. The real miracle was that someone loved him after seeing all the parts he tried to hide. And stayed. Sometimes the cure isn't a medicine. It's a moment. A person. A hand that reaches for yours and doesn't let go when it finds what's broken. And sometimes, the people we least expect walk in covered in dust and save us anyway. From the heart. If you've ever felt unlovable.
If you've ever built walls so no one could hurt you again, and then maybe you understand this story more than you want to admit. And if someone has ever seen you, truly seen you, and stayed, well done. Was my before silence becomes the allergy that keeps you from everything your heart still deserves. Share your story in the comments. We're listening, and love, as always, finds its way.